how have we done this for this many episodes?
How many? I mean, there must be more than 100. I mean, I know you do other books also, obviously, but there also must be more than 125 Goosebumps books, right?
Oh, yeah. We haven't run out.
So I think we've gotten through the originals, there were like 80 of them, right, Chad?
Something like that's 60 plus. We do detours, like there's like a couple of episodes just for the TV show, and we did a lot of like the choose your own adventure, give yourself goosebumps, those kind of ones. Yeah, RL's influence extends farther and farther as every year goes past.
I can't believe you remembered there were 62 exactly. That's real. I looked it up. I just looked it up. Wow, you're.
It feels like a holy number, right?
You're a bumphead, man.
It's like, I mean, is it like the original like 151 Pokemon where you just know in your gut that you know in your gut that the 152nd was a mistake?
Yes, it didn't make the cut.
They had to stop.
Yeah.
The new ones are just like the new Pokemon. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes you're like, "Why? This was a Pokemon already. Yeah. You didn't need to do this."
another fighting fire cat. We've already done this.
Yeah.
I am looking at the pictures of the aliens at my homework creatures, y'all.
You mean the movie version?
Yes, the movie version. They're something. They're a thing. And
yeah, they don't. So one of the things that is so charming about the book is the illustrations by Mrs. Coville, and they're not so outlandishly intricate that they could not have been brought to live action successfully.
Right.
I feel like the illustration style was achievable, and they didn't achieve it.
There were no physical laws that were stopping them from doing those creatures.
No, it could have looked fine.
Someone in the costumes department of the Aliens at My Homework live action movie was like, you know what, I can do better. Yeah.
I mean, the one I'll give them is it's weird to me that near as I can tell from looking at this, Snout is not in the movie, when it seems like, based on achievability of prosthetics, Tar Gibbons is the one that shouldn't have been in the movie.
Right. Look at Tar Gibbons with that extra leg on the cover, which is
he looks so bad.
It's tripping me out.
Tar Gibbons is described in the book and then in the illustrations as having a lemon-shaped body.
That's right.
Four legs, 2 arms, a neck longer than its arms, and then like a bulbous turtle-like face. Legitimately difficult to translate to live action. Tar Gibbons is kind of crazy looking.
Tar Gibbons.
And instead of the movie version, I guess if you haven't looked it up, is more of like, what if a janitor had a third leg?
Yeah.
It looks like a character that would beat you up in a Star Wars cantina for talking to his friend.
Yes. And the no attempt at a long neck. No, it's got sort of buggy eyes, but not achieving the effect of the description or the illustration.
Marley, do you think that Snout is maybe that little pink fuzzy thing? Because I don't think that's Plink. That's not Plink, right?
That's definitely Plink.
Is that Plink?
That is,
I mean,
it has to be Plink.
Okay, I love Plink. I would die for Plink. But why would Plink get in here instead of Snout, who has lines?
Someone had a bias against Snout.
Yeah, because Snout's not listed on the cast, and neither is Plink, but that's because Plink doesn't talk.
Plink doesn't talk.
Makes sense,
right?
Just gonna throw this out there. Maybe there's some sort of like there's some drama around Snout, because I was looking for. Welcome to Goosebuds, by the way.
Hello.
I was hedging my bets in case we weren't officially going yet, but then I realized we definitely were.
We're definitely going. I'm one of your hosts, Chad.
I am Paul. Hello.
Kevin is in the Shadow Realm, but he's also editing this episode. So hi, Kevin. We are joined by guest Marly Halpern-Graser.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about children's books from 1993.
Well, you're the right podcast.
Thank you for bringing this. I'm going to lay it out there. I don't give a crap about building any suspense. I love this book. I'm here for it, and I love it. And thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, we're doing. Did we say that we're reading Aliens Ate My Homework by Bruce Coville, the first of the Rod Allbright Alien Adventures series?
Yeah, I was thrown by that. I didn't realize this was like a sub-series.
Yeah, he's got, so there's no good name for it. Like, in the actual book, it says, like, Rod Allbright and the Galactic Patrol, but no one uses that as a naming convention. But yeah, there's Four of them.
Okay.
I believe it's Aliens Ate My Homework, I Lost My Sneakers in Dimension X, The Search for Snout, and then I think the second movie is called Aliens Stole My Body, but I think the fourth book is called Aliens Stole My Body.
Yeah, so did they just jump? Were they like, we're not going to get 4 movies out of this. We got to go straight to the end.
I'm going to just choose to assume that the reason Snout isn't on the cover is they just jumped to The Search for Snout.
That's what I thought, but no, he's not in the next one either.
Oh my God.
Is that a Search for Spock parody title? Was Bruce Coville referenced?
Absolutely. Snout dies and it's exactly Spock. They bring him back.
This book 100% wears its TNG or just Star Trek in general love on its sleeve, without a doubt.
Even more than that, I have a feeling the later books they might not fulfill this promise, and I kind of want to reread them now to see if they do, and I just didn't pick it up as a child. But so Snout is obviously Spock. He has mental Spock-like powers. His name sounds like sounds like Spock.
He can mind meld,
Yeah, Gracker, the captain, is not so obviously William Shatner, but he's certainly like a tough, gruff, manly captain type.
Yeah.
They specifically say that Gracker and Snout share a room.
That's right.
That room is private.
Yes.
And when Snout is injured and like on the medical bay, Gracker is messed up. Yep. And they talk about the captain and Snout's specific bond.
Yeah, Snout almost cries at the end of the book. I think he does cry at the end of the book.
So we're saying there is some sort of romantic connection between Gracker and Snout.
Absolutely. And it's definitely because they're Spock and Kirk stand-ins.
Yep.
Which we know Shatner and Nimoy loved each other offset.
Well, but the characters loved each other.
The characters,
yes. Right.
The characters were deeply in love, mostly off camera and a little bit on camera when they could get away with it.
I enjoy going back to the looks in the movie. I love that Gracker kind of looks like Psycho Gorman. Are you aware of that movie?
I know the look. I know the prosthetics for Psycho Gorman, and I see it.
He's got a real Psycho Gorman look, which I think works for the vibe of Gracker.
Yeah, Gracker looks okay. I thought he was supposed to be green.
He was.
Well, yeah.
I don't know why they made him blue, because no one else, like sometimes, on my podcast, I was just talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and how in the comics they're all the aliens are green, and so they had to just pick different colors for them to be, so they wouldn't all be green. But there's no other green. Like Phil being green is fine. He's a plant. That's different.
Right.
Gracker could have been green.
It looked like they were just going for like a primary color thing here, like because he got
Well, also speaking of Phil the plant, I thought I should have realized that connection even more. Obviously, there's some Star Trek in here, but the points you all are saying, the movie stars William Shatner as the voice of Phil the plant.
Yes, until the sequel, where somehow by some astounding, unbelievable twist of fate, they couldn't afford to get him to come back. So the second one is George Takei playing Phil.
Whoa.
Yeah, I thought. Like, do you think they canonically address it? Do you think they have to do like the kids will notice? We have to he's in a new season, or he's molting or something.
You'd have to work to find two men with more different voices.
Clearly, it's like, oh, hey, adults who are watching this with your kids, Star Trek,
right?
It's very funny. I saw it when this. I'm enough of a Bruce Coville head that when this movie was announced, I was like excited. I was like, oh, cool. Well, because I was like, I've thought like when in this whole era of them turning like young adult books into movies, I was always like, do the Aliens Ate My Homework? Why is no one doing Aliens Ate My Homework?
Right.
And then they did it, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta stop asking for things.
The monkey's paw curled,
yeah. So I watched the trailer. I checked it out, and the trailer heavily features William Shatner just himself talking about how he dubbed over this plant puppet that looks awful.
Oh yeah, clearly never on set. No one of them ever met Shatner except maybe at some sort of premiere party that Shatner didn't go to. Probably just guessing. And it's an easy one to add him onto it.
But it's cool. When I wound up downloading it on my Kindle because I just wanted to have it there and throw Coville some more money. And I was worried that it would be different illustrations because the cover was different than the edition I read as a kid.
Right.
But the inside illustrations are the same ones, and they're great.
They are great.
That's great. I didn't realize that was his partner's illustrations. Like, he's married to the illustrator.
Yeah, I mean it's another Coville, so that's got to be who it is.
Yeah, she did They did their first book together. They worked together on the first book that Bruce Coville put out. Actually, like it was a picture book. It was a picture book, so they worked on it. I was
going to ask, like, what Marly. I didn't even give you the full hype up to our audience. Marly, you're an acclaimed writer with credits on everything from like Thundercats to Mad TV to right now Kapow. You're deep in like animation and genre stuff, and like what you brought this book to us. What is your full history with Bruce Coville?
So I mean, I am currently animation writer, producer, done mostly kids or PG stuff. I did specifically the versions you're not thinking of if you just say Thundercats or Mad TV, because I was Thundercats Roar and the Cartoon Network version of Mad, not Mad TV.
I think the cooler versions, honestly.
I know. I'm just saying not the ones that would most be meant if you just said
right.
Sure,
right.
You'd be about 20 years older if you'd written on the original Thundercats.
I would be. My Coville thing is, so when you guys asked me to come on the podcast, I had to be honest and say that I've never read a full Goosebumps book. I actually have read some Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps books, but those are the only ones.
Mm-hmm.
And which are, I just want to, I'm sure you guys have done whole episodes about it, so I don't want to take up too much time on that.
No, please.
Yeah. The thing that's funny to me about the Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps is that normally in a Choose Your Own Adventure book, if you get to an ending where you die, you know that's wrong and you need to go back. But with the Goosebumps ones, it was hard to tell if it was worth going back or not, or if this was the best. It's like, oh, was this the best death I'm gonna get?
He loves to make you suffer with those books. We've experienced many a Choose Your Own Goosebumps, and you pretty much have the only right choice is not to play. Is what? We'll go with.
A lot of our episodes are going like, well, I think that's the best we're gonna do. So we're transformed as monkeys. We're monkeys now. Fine.
Yeah, because like I remember one of the officially branded Choose Your Own Adventure books that I remember really well is one where you're a kid on a space station being hunted by a Dracula.
Oh, we did that one. That one rocks.
Wait, we did that one. That one's not even. Wait, is that even an actual Goosebumps one?
No.
Space Vampire for sure.
That's an actual Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh, actual Choose Your Own Adventure.
So
yes.
like that. So that is like, so real Choose Your Own Adventure did horror books. But in those there was always a couple options where you live.
Right.
There were a few ways to defeat the vampire.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's one good ending in most of these Choose Your Own Goosebumps, and then the rest are either like sad jokes at your expense or death. And that's pretty much it.
So yeah, that's my only experience with Goosebumps is probably the worst way to experience Goosebumps.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm kind of jealous. To be honest.
I kind of wish you had more experience, because reading this book was such a delight. To be with a writer who has passion, empathy, and true care for the craft is incredible. It's incredible. And like, look, I'm not saying that RL is devoid of all of those things, but there is a lot more of like a turning it out feel. Whereas this, like, Chad messaged me today while reading it and said, "Wow, this is great to have a book with structure."
Can you just imagine?
Oh man, yeah. I guess I do wish I could compare them better, because part of it is if you look at the output, Coville wrote a lot less books.
Yeah, I was more familiar with, even when you first recommended it, Marly, I had never read this one, but I was really into, I didn't realize it was a separate series, My Teacher's an Alien.
I didn't realize that was different either.
That is a not only a different series, very different tone. And also both series get very serious by the end of them.
Yeah, I had that more as a horror series in my mind. Am I misremembering it?
Yeah. Alien, My Teacher's an Alien is more of a horror series, especially because in the first book, I have read those also. I like these ones better, which is why I recommended it. But Alien, My Teacher's an Alien, the very first one is basically Coville trying to do Goosebumps, because the alien is a villain. When the kids uncover the alien, they defeat him, and they end with like, we've saved the school. But then the second one, My Teacher Fried My Brains, another teacher turns out to be an alien and brain zaps the bully. basically it's kind of like, so you know how this book has beat Billy Becker?
Right.
Yeah.
But then Billy Becker has Archie, the other villain, the other bully.
Yep.
So my Teacher's an Alien had an Archie kind of character who's just like a big dumb bully. And in the second book, he gets brain zapped and becomes a genius.
Oh, yeah.
But becoming a genius makes him a good person.
Ah, okay.
Because he's
Sure.
like, it comes with empathy, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Coville's really into empathy.
Yeah.
I could sense that there is, look, in this book, and I said this to Chad earlier today, there is a discussion of pronouns that is perfect in this book.
It's good.
It's a good discussion of it, and it succinctly puts it in there. The kid's like, I'm going to have to think about that. And then it's like, yeah, do a little turning on that one, on that one, Rod.
Paul, do you still have that page up? Perchance, I remember you were talking about it before. I was just curious.
Sure do. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, just an example, yeah.
Let's talk about the introduction of Tar Gibbons.
So this is, well, we're jumping ahead a little bit. There is a character that is introduced, Tar Gibbons, and Tar Gibbons is from a planet, it's from a different planet, and has, they don't have male and female genders. They have, I don't even know if they explain fully the gender of them. They just say that we don't have that. We don't have male, we don't have female.
Well, I mean, one of the things I love is the way they explain it is Tar Gibbons says, well, I think I'm going to possibly make up the names, the fake words, but
that's right.
Tar Gibbons is like, well, I'm a farfel.
Right.
And Rod is like, well, is that more like a girl or more like a boy? And Gibbons is like, well, it's more like a Perkin, if anything.
That I love. It's great. There's a lot of great linguistic joking with Tar Gibbons throughout this that I really enjoyed. So the quote that I really appreciated that I sent over to Chad is, okay, I said, just tell me what pronoun to use when I'm talking about him, her, it. I mean, see what I mean? It will do just fine, said Tar Gibbons. What will do just fine? It will, he repeated. What will? It. Refer to me as an it. That seems pretty rude, I said nervously. Not as rude as calling me a he or she, it said. I sighed and turned back to my volcano. I had to think about this for a while. Perfect.
Pretty good.
It's great. And because the book is first person narration, you even saw in that passage the narration starts calling Tar Gibbons it from that point on.
From that point on, never lets up with that, which is great. And they get a who's on first joke in there too, which is great.
I did notice, like, because I think if Coville was writing this book today, he would have gone with they them for Tar Gibbons.
Sure,
right. But I think he's trying his best, and it's a nice scene. But I did notice, I caught it one time. He says them for Tar Gibbons because it works so much better grammatically.
Yeah,
because that's why people use it.
It's great
because he never says he or she. He always says it. But there's one time where it's like, and Rod flew up to Tar Gibbons and then around them, and I was like, I got it. You got there.
And
this is written what, like 93, something like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was, and there's a lot of other stuff in here, a lot of good little philosophical moments.
It's great
stuff that I think gets across big ideas to a kid and isn't talking down to them, and I love that about it, because I feel like in Goosebumps he doesn't really try to get across these bigger ideas. He just has the kids kind of dismiss things and move on, and I love that. He has these moments where things have to sink in for the character for a little bit, I love that. It was great.
One thing, and then I'm happy to just talk through the plot. I love doing that. Yeah. But the thing that struck me about the writing, because I haven't revisited it in a long, long time. I think the reason I have them so memorized is that I think I reread them all as an older teenager when I was like, I'm going to read these books when I was a kid. I think I did, but not in a long time. And what I was struck by Coville's writing style, which I like, was because the whole thing's narrated by Rod being like, so I did this and then this happened and I went over here, and he has Rod just constantly say, or how it is, or the look your mom gives you, or how when your friend says this. And it's great because it's just how young people talk, but also it's like bringing the kid reading the book in. It's being like, my mom gave me a look, the one. I'm a kid like you. We're talking on the same level.
Right. I'm not gonna spell out what that looks like. I'm gonna let you fill it in, and then your world becomes a part of my world, and we're connected even more.
The voices, the voice and dialogue also just seems a lot more, I guess, adoring towards youth.
Well, yes. With the siblings. He has problems with the siblings, but he talks about loving them in it, which is nice.
There's something like the characters of, and we can kind of use this major transition into laying out the basic plot.
I do want to ask real quick, Marly, have you read Goblins in the Castle by Coville?
I kind of think I haven't. I don't know why, because I know of it and I've read like all his other books, but I actually don't think I have read those ones.
It kicks ass. Check it out. I read that as a kid. There's a sequence in it that I still think about to this day that was very scary. But it's not a really scary book, but there's a scary, creepy, claustrophobic sequence that really
the Coville facilitated horror that's really stuck with me as a kid is he would also edit anthologies.
Oh.
So he edited, he would like stick his name on anthologies of like young adult horror or fantasy stories.
Cool.
And a couple of the stories from his horror one really messed me up as a kid, but he didn't actually write them.
Okay, cool. But he was part of the editing process.
Yeah, he picked them. He knew I think he was better at picking truly scary stories than actually writing them.
Right. Cool.
Sure. That's a skill in itself. That's really rad.
I cut in on you, Chad. I'm sorry. Please go on.
No. I was just gonna say using this as an example, but the very basic start of this story, it feels very Goosebumps in that it is we are following our main character Rod, who is caught up. Like, this kid is juggling a bunch of stuff. He is bullied. He has multiple bullies. Arnie and Billy, I believe.
Yep.
Who put bugs in his hair.
Oh yeah, you're right. I said Archie. It's Arnie.
Arnie, right? Yeah. And I don't remember which one was the kid most likely to spend time in prison, which I thought was a hilarious end of year title to get. Was kid most likely to spend time in prison was
yeah, that was Arnie's title before Billy showed up.
Before he even showed up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Even that was just enough of a, like, I found just that kind of nature of, they described it like Arnie was a small guy, but he was the main bully, and then when Billy came into town, Arnie went to number 2. He was Billy's dragon.
Billy did the prison move where Billy showed up and attacked the biggest kid.
because the idea, and they set this up right away, is that Arnie was the bully because he was the biggest kid.
Right.
And then Billy shows up. He's the shortest kid by a lot.
Right.
And they specifically say he's beaten up every boy and half the girls in school.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme for a middle school bully.
Pretty cruel, I would say.
Yeah, I would say.
And our main character, Rod, is dealing with basically like babysitting his twin siblings.
Thing 1 and Thing 2.
Thing 1 and Thing 2, because they lucked the Cat in the Hat. This is the right level of like pop culture references inside the world, I thought, of like, these kids know these things. Of course they do. This
book does a great job too, I think, of staying pretty time agnostic. It doesn't really hit. There are a couple of really hilarious wordings that I had to write down because I was like, that no one says that anymore. So I did write a couple down, but it does a pretty good job of staying time agnostic, and I think it does, like, Dr. Seuss, pretty timeless stuff. So it's like,
I think especially if you think about at the time, like writing it, if he's writing for 10-year-olds in 1993, he's being careful to not reveal that he doesn't know what they actually like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
he's just referencing stuff he knows the kids are still gonna know.
Right.
He's not like, it's 1993. Rod should probably be talking about Nintendo and stuff, but Coville probably doesn't know what that is, and he knows to stay away.
Yeah, you might mess up and reference the wrong system. So I was playing a Jaguar. What? Yeah. There's something about the way that, like, even starting this off of like, okay, our main character has to take care of these kids and he has to do homework. Honestly, the most dated thing in this entire first part of the book is just that Rod has to do a papier-mâché volcano, which I just assume schools don't do anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe that just feels like it's an outdated thing. But the entire time, I felt frustrated on Rod's behalf. He is like, once aliens quickly land in the story, they just crash land through a window in his papier-mâché goop. That is the inciting incident. That he is juggling these tiny little aliens that are the size of like Lego figures, his twins, and the dog, was it Bonehead?
Bonehead. Yep.
And like, I felt frustrated, but he's not complaining about his family. But I feel like in the RL version, we would have had 3 chapters in a row just like, oh my God, I can't stand my siblings. Yeah. They're the worst. They just reference, I don't know. It was a night and day difference.
Well, because instead, in like another chapter, you get like the sweetest version of that instead, where he says, I had to tuck the things into bed. They used to insist on each getting a kiss each night, but I didn't like doing that. So I negotiated to bopping them on the head with their teddy bears one after another. And there's an illustration of him bopping the 3-year-olds with the teddy bears.
It's a really caring image. I was thrown by it.
And then he goes, and then I had to go give my mom a kiss. I tried to get her into a bop situation, but she wouldn't have it.
I love it. It makes our main character likable, which is a surprise to a normal Goosebumps reader. It's incredible because it's just, building empathy, and like you said, Marly, like having the moments where it lets the reader kind of fill in the gaps of Rod's life with their own, so that they're kind of like they're having a little extra empathy for this kid,
Well, yeah, even stuff like, the fact that a big plot point in this is that, Rod's mom is a single mother. They're like, they're not like in poverty, but money's an issue for them. They're not as rich as the other kids at Rod's school.
Yep.
And even when his friend, Mickey, right, calls and wants him to come over, and Rod doesn't want him to come over because he'll see the aliens. What he says is, I just told him it's not a good time right now. Mickey understands. Sometimes it's not a good time at his house. Sometimes it's not a good time at my house. He knows I'll tell him later if I need to.
Yep.
That felt really real.
Rod is emotionally intelligent and his friend has emotional intelligence too. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And so then, meanwhile, this little Lego-sized Captain Cracker full-on takes out a gun, points it to Rod's head, and says, "You've been deputized into the Galactic Patrol. Help me catch a wanted felon, or I will arrest you and drag you off into space."
Stakes established. Stakes are there.
Yeah. The most of our initial adventure with these aliens is with Rod having a tiny gun planted to the side of his temple, knowing that it'll just bore through him.
He gets shot with it in the earlobe and has his ear pierced, which I thought was a hilarious moment because he's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get in trouble for having my ear pierced." They stick a stud in it, and I'm like, "Listen, kid, that's gonna be more obvious. 2, that shit ain't closing up until you get that stud out of there. You're making things worse for yourself."
Also, I really like that because Cracker points the gun at him and fires. And then it goes through his ear, and he's like, "Ow, my ear!" And then the narration is like, "Well, 1 second ago I thought I was gonna die, and now I'm complaining about my ear." Wow, your priorities, huh?
Yep. Great stuff.
We also it's just kind of like right into the adventure. Like it's not any certain reason why Rod is there. It is just, we've crash landed in your basement. Your papier-mâché goop might have messed up our systems. We need to repair. And now you are deputized.
And the aliens do say they're supposed to be able to grow bigger, and that's what's broken on their ship.
Right.
What they never explain is why they shrunk down small in the first place.
I thought, do you travel through space faster? No, it would actually take longer, I would think.
There's never. I mean, I guess it's so they can sneak around, but I don't know.
That's the impression I was getting, was sneakiness.
Yeah, they are sneaking around because they right away, when the second alien comes out, the diplomat, Madame Pong, I think.
Yes.
What she says is, we're deputizing you, but don't tell anybody because the Council of Worlds is not ready to make formal diplomatic ties to Earth.
Oh, I loved that.
And there's a lot of talk about dark things happening on Earth, which I love.
Yeah, but it's the same thing where what Rod says is, "Oh yeah, you're right. Earth has a lot of problems. I've seen the evening news."
Right, exactly.
And basically just lets you, the kid, supply whatever you think that means.
There's a great moment. I'm going to jump ahead just to this one line that I wrote down, which is Rod is protesting to being taken along on an adventure because it's dangerous. And he says, "On this planet, we protect children." And Madame Pong was silent for a moment. Finally, she said, "I don't understand. If you try to protect children, why do you let them live where people are shooting at each other all the time?" Fucking incredible. Just just blast him. And Rod is like, "Fuck, you're right. You're right, Madame Pong. I'm coming with."
That's some adult sci-fi stuff. Both the when are humanity going to get invited into the Federation of Planets, basically, and also a kid's understanding of it.
Yeah, because that's where the other Star Trek thing comes from, is that the aliens are from a very Federation style civilization,
right?
But Earth isn't part of it yet in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of the references they say early on, we've been watching in decades of your transmission, so both like Madame Pong and Rod bond over like Sherlock Holmes for a moment.
Yep.
So despite them not even being a candidate, or if they are or not, like they're still pretty well versed in human culture,
and it does a good job of avoiding a lot of those like. It just gets it lets them speak in cultural shorthand, which is nice to just get that over with, right? So that we can just
that's true. The aliens are never confused by anything Rod says.
No, but I feel like that would be the cliche for most. Like if you had, if you just said like Google, give me 100 books about kids meet aliens, 95% of them are going to be very much the jokes of like, what are hot dogs? Are these meat tubes or what? Whatever. Like because that's good comedy, but that's the go-to.
Is this just going to be the weird timing of I just watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is also a movie about one Earth human and a bunch of weird aliens?
Right, yep.
Yeah.
But like even in that, there's the joke where Yondu is floating on his flying arrow.
Oh my God, amazing moment.
And Peter Quill is like, haha, you look like Mary Poppins. And Yondu's like, is he cool? And like that's the kind of joke you would do if the aliens didn't know Earth pop culture.
That's the highest. That's one of my favorite moments of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe is a Mary Poppins, y'all. Love that moment.
It's good.
It's great. But he doesn't take that route in this, which I don't mind. I think it does a good job. He does have again with Tar, right? Tar, was it?
Well, Tar is an honorific, so you have to say Tar Gibbons.
Tar Gibbons. He has like some great like moments with like Tar Gibbons saying things that are kind of like Zen koans or like like very like wise statements that have like ridiculous syntax or don't quite make sense or relying on some stuff. There's a great part where someone calls someone a flapping food sucker. I didn't write down who it was, but I thought that was an incredible
yeah,
insult.
That's good. And man, I think we've referenced all of them, but yeah, the aliens are Gracker, who's like angry, violent space captain who does have some. I think they explain it more in the other books, but he has these modules in the back of his head that determine his temperament,
which raises a lot of moral questions for Madame Pong. You know what I mean? Like
because Madame Pong's just like changing his personality by switching out modules,
and it's shown that there are ones that Gracker likes more than others, which we will get to. It doesn't seem like he's fully against this, but it is strange that she is able to manipulate him so easily.
Yeah, and then Madame Pong is the diplomat. She's actually, I guess she's the one that doesn't have a perfectly strong Star Trek analogy. Because I mean, I guess she's
like Leanna Troy, maybe. I guess.
Yeah, Troy. I guess she's Troy.
Sure. A little
bit. She doesn't have the empathy sensing powers that Snout.
Right. They kind of split them up a little bit, I guess. But
I guess that's because Spock and Troy aren't from the same show.
Right. So I think like you get a little bit of that split, but Snout definitely is more of like a Spock because Snout. I want to see. I'll find the book that Snout gives him at the end, which I thought was a funny name for what he does. But yeah. So Madame Pong is the diplomat. Then Phil the plant is a plant with a little furry monkey cat named Plink, who's like his like symbiote.
Yeah, and they say Phil the plant is like looking to find his roots, but it's not a joke.
Yeah, well, I think isn't it like every time they say things like that, Rod can't tell if it's a joke, and so he just doesn't respond. Yeah, like Phil's like I got lots of brothers. They're a bunch of nuts, and Rod's like, I don't know if that's a joke.
He handles it well. I think Rod handles it well. Oh, that's right. So Snout gives Rod at the end a copy of Secrets of the Mental Masters, which I thought was a fun little book to give him at the end.
That's great. And then Tar Gibbons, who we've talked about, and then Snout. I think it's all of them, right? That's everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did see like Snout. Yeah, Snout refers to himself at one point in the book as the ship's. Well, Rod's about to ask. He's like, "I'm the ship's mental officer." And Rod asks, is that like being the ship's psychologist? And Gracker immediately is like, don't answer, that's classified. Which is just kind of a funny thing to be like, we can't even talk about what our titles are.
Yeah, they actually use that. He uses the fact that Gracker won't let them tell Rod anything as a way to keep the plot moving and not worry about the world building too much.
Yes, I love that. Because it like cuts off moments where there would be exposition so swiftly and leaves a little mystery. Now there are moments where there's one moment in this book that has a heavy amount of exposition. It's the rocket belt scene, and this book does such a good job of not really having exposition-y dialogue that scene actually stood out to me as being a tough little read for it's only a couple pages where it's very exposition-y, but like everything else is like they either cut it off with Gracker or they have Gracker try to cut it off, and then they do like kind of an end around way of getting to like explaining it, but through like a subtler storytelling method, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can talk about it because actually there's this part of that moment too. The belt that I thought was really, really poignant. But to get to that point, we quickly go into the Rod being now responsible for these miniature aliens. He is threatened with being imprisoned by the Galactic Patrol if he doesn't cooperate. We have the titular moment of finding out that they're eating his volcano.
Yep.
Because they can convert the matter in its more simplistic structure, which I thought was kind of a cute idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like pulped paper is the best fuel for their replicators.
Right.
Yeah, and also just it's like you guys just eating that raw. That feels like, I mean, whatever. I can't. Who's supposed to know the alien taste buds?
Yeah, they did that. That is true. I actually think the fact that the aliens actually also eat the homework, and it's not just a metaphor, is his concession to needing the title.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Like, the book has to be called Aliens Ate My Homework, so I guess they have to eat the homework.
Yeah, the editor was either like, you either show me the entire process of the matter being broken down and then converted to a space burrito, or they gotta eat some of this fucking homework.
Yeah. Because I do think, like, these books are being pushed into the more marketable kids book format that they're actually not. They're kind of not that book.
Right. He didn't start with the title when he made this book.
No, I would probably, because I had missed this one. I think I thought I had read it, but I hadn't. I feel like after reading it now, I would have been more into it if it had been called, what I would call him, Rod Seacrest. What is it? Rod, what's this?
Allbright.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, and the Galactic Patrol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be way more into, oh, boy gets to be a space cop or whatever. Like, fuck yeah, sign me up.
Well, especially because every book after this, he goes off into space with them. He is a space cop for the next 3 books.
Right. But that's because we're all cool dorks that would like stuff like that.
Sure.
You got to sell this to the kid that's like looking at car books at the Scholastic Fair, and he has to see this and be like, that looks kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Sure. This just evokes that like Mars Needs Moms, where I'm like, oh, this is for babies. Or whatever.
Right. This book has a lot more weight than the title would make it seem.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that makes it feel like it is legitimately for kids, which is fine because it is, it's just that it's the story's very simple. It's very short. Very little happens. Do you think this would even be 2 episodes of television if you were adapting this?
Oh, that's a good question.
I was thinking about it while I was watching it, and I was imagining like the set pieces. You would have to do some work, and I haven't seen the movie. I feel like they had to do some work to like zhuzh up a couple of the set pieces. Like the ending is great, but I feel like there's a little too much hanging out in the house and hanging out in school, you know, like those 2 locations.
Yeah, I'd be curious how you do it, because like as I watched the trailer for Aliens Ate My Homework, don't want to pick on a production too much. I understand their budgets, but it does seem like, wow, we ran out of sets for sci-fi, and now they are just kind of in like a tarp room.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel for them. I'm sure that was a lower budget production, but it feels like this would almost be better as like an animated.
I mean, I'm probably partly thinking that just because animation's that's where I work, but I feel like this would really work great as an animated show.
Yeah, it would. It would you need that ability for the changing of the scale of everything. I feel like is really tough, you know, because there's a lot of that in this book. I think it would definitely work better as an animation.
So so get in touch, Coville. We're available.
We will work on this. We will gladly work on this book.
Let us know.
Yeah, we said that they're hunting a notorious criminal referred to as BKR, which I just kept reading as the BTK killer every time.
Oh yeah, what I love is that when Madame Pong says BKR, it's written out in all caps, B-E-K and R. But then immediately in like a parenthetical, Rod's narration goes, well, she said BKR the sounds, but later she told me the best way to write it is the letters.
When I was filling out my police report later, she told me the best way to go.
I love the idea of justifying how Rod knows how to spell it.
He does a decent amount of that in this book too, where he's like, we discussed this later. Trust me, I'm not speaking out of my ass here. I did. I did my homework with these aliens.
I actually reading this and knowing that I really loved these books as a kid, and then I bet his writing style in his other books is similar. I actually think I might have picked up from Bruce Coville the unnecessary use of parentheses.
Dude!
Because I do that. It's just, he has a lot of times where it's like, it really is its own sentence. It doesn't need the parentheses at all. The parentheses are just to show you it's an aside.
My man, I love an extra parenthetical or two in a sentence.
A parenthetical is funnier than another sentence. Let's admit it.
I think he's right, but I do it too, and I bet I do it because of him.
Yeah, definitely.
The power of an extra parenthetical to me is, this is going to date me as a reference, but the old SNL Kevin Nealon bits. Saying a second thing very quickly out of the side of your mouth. That is the power of the parenthetical.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's very effective, but I didn't realize that this is probably where I got it. So they're trying to get BKR, and the aliens actually already know that BKR's been living on Earth for 12 years, and that his human alias is Becker, and Rod's main bully, the little guy, is Billy Becker.
Yep.
So Rod is like, Billy Becker's dad is an evil alien. That's why he sucks.
And they go to explore it the next day. They're like, all right, we're going to go to school. And I think they're at school to get some reconnaissance, but they're also currently searching for the device that will allow them to scale back up to their full size. And during the day, Gracker is stolen by Billy, right? Billy steals it, not Arnie?
Arnie steals it.
Arnie does steal it. So Arnie steals thinking it's a toy. And then for the rest of the day, so Billy and Arnie sneak up on Rod all the time and beat him up. For the rest of the day, the aliens go full SEAL Team 6, and they're like they're in Rod's ear, like helping him dodge punches. They're altering time so that he could dodge punches. He dodges a punch that Arnie throws that breaks Arnie's hand, which is a fun, brutal moment. And I wrote this down. I don't know where this fits into this, but they talk about the interplanetary Hooskow, which is a prison, about someone being sent there. That's one of those terms that I was like, no one has said Hooskow in at least 40 years. So they spend the day basically dodging these bullies. They get Gracker back because Gracker escapes, I believe, right?
It's great. It's like the ending of the live action Alvin and the Chipmunks, where Gracker escaping is like my favorite, maybe only favorite joke from the live action Alvin and the Chipmunks, where David Cross has stolen the chipmunks and he's got them in a cat carrier and he's gonna work them to death, and he drives off, and then Dave is like, I gotta save him, I gotta save the chipmunks, and then the chipmunks are just there in the car next to him, and they're like, yeah, let's get him, Dave, and they're like, we're talking chipmunks, we can escape a cat carrier, it's not a big deal, and that's the movie's end, it's over.
Yep.
Side tangent, Marley, is that the same Alvin and the Chipmunks movie where maybe it was one of the sequels where probably someone you've also worked with, Eric Bauza, voice actor, cameos as a gopher that saves the day for a moment? Do you remember that?
Oh man, like an actual gopher animal?
Yeah, it's wild.
No, I haven't. I've only seen the first one, and that doesn't happen in that one. That's great.
I thought it was that scene is it's like a car chase where they are definitely doing something very similar to how you described. They're going through the streets, and then out of nowhere, a sewer lid opens up like a Ninja Turtle, and a CG gopher, voiced by Eric Bauza, is like, oh, hey, Alvin, I'm helping you out. And the lid like causes the car to get out of traffic. And that gopher was a mascot that NASCAR was trying to use. It was like
God.
Like this gopher like lived at the Indy 500 or something, and it's just a force. The Michelin Man must have just shown it, right. Like, here you go. And then the Alvin Chipmunk goes, thanks, gopher, you're our best friend. And then they never see them ever again.
That's amazing.
It's a wild force moment. Sorry,
cool.
So it just you triggered that memory.
You gotta watch every Alvin and Chipmunks movie because each one has one good joke.
Sorry, you were saying.
But anyways, that's basically what happens with Gracker. They make a big deal about Arnie grabbing him, but like he's a man. He's got a flight vest. He's got a rocket gun. Yeah. He just frees himself. He escapes.
And he comes back, and Arnie and Billy know that something's up, but they can't prove it that day at school. So we go home. We find out a little bit more about. Well, we find out that Gracker is proof that a commanding officer can not only rule through fear, because people listen to him, but they talk behind his back and they defy his orders at all times. But we also find out that Rod's dad has been gone and he doesn't provide any support. He seemingly disappeared. He's just gone completely. And it was at this point that I got nervous that Dad was going to have to come back later in the book, and it was going to be a big twist. I'll say it right now. It doesn't happen, and I love that it doesn't happen. It probably happens at some point in this series of books, but...
Well, I want to ask Marly that I saw the third book that was The Search for Snout in the UK was redubbed Alien Stole My Dad.
Yeah, so it's not totally insane that I keep thinking about Guardians of the Galaxy when talking about this, because it is that same base. It turns out his dad is gone because his dad went to space.
Yeah, I figured it was something like that, yes.
Yeah. I think he's a human. I forget if his dad's actually an alien, but definitely his dad is in space.
Yeah, I figured I assumed there was something going on with that. And this story is very simple, like we said. There's not a lot of things you don't see coming. But I was happy that they didn't do that. It was nice maybe because it's just so common now in most of the things that we see. It was just nice not to have that moment.
Yeah, it's cool. And the other, just talking about them like explaining things in a way that's very effective for kids, but also pretty deep. Somewhere around here is when Rod finally is like, no, you got to tell me what BKR's crime is. Like, what is, what am I getting myself into? And they just keep saying that his crime is the greatest, maybe only true crime. It seems like there's two crimes in the Galactic Society. One is disobeying an order from Gracker, which gets you immediately thrown in jail forever. Or executed if he feels like it. And then the only other crime is just cruelty. Just doing something for a cruel reason.
And as Madame Pong says, millions have wept.
Yeah, every time. And I feel like it's great because basically I feel like the implication here is that BKR is essentially a serial killer, but he can't say that in this kid's book.
Right. BKR is on some mass killing dictator shit right now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's bad. It's definitely he's laying low on Earth, so he's just smushing bugs in a kid's hair. But in space, he was doing something really bad.
He was doing bad shit, and I love it. Madame Pong brings back this line later, the millions have wept. It's the only thing she says in like, how bad has it been?
Which I think at that point, Rod responds, make it 1,000,001.
Yep.
Well, that's why the cruelty thing was really sticking out to me. I loved that. I mean, it's also kind of hits that Star Trek thing of like an optimistic Federation where no one is, doing evil shit if they can help it.
Yeah, but it does get, in the later books, it gets more philosophical because, like, Madame Pong says, like, there is suffering in the universe and sometimes bad things have to happen, but cruelty, doing something, taking pleasure from hurting other people, that's the greatest crime in the universe. And I forget the exact way this plays out, but in the later books, I think Rod's cousin winds up like stowing aboard and is involved. That's Elspeth Allbright. And I think there's a point where the aliens are having a discussion about jettisoning her into space.
Whoa.
because she's a stowaway, and it doesn't, and I believe what happens is Rod is like, how can you be talking about this? I thought cruelty was like the main thing you guys never do.
Yeah.
And Madame Pong basically is like, well, we don't want to do it.
We didn't like to do it.
Yeah, it's not cruel because we're also sorry this is happening.
I was trying to, as I read that part, I was like, I want to see if I can apply this to like, would life be better if that was our main thing? If cruelty was the primal cardinal sin.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what would happen is you would just get a lot of really horrible political debates about, was this awful thing so justified it's not cruel?
Yeah, true. I do think we're missing one character feature that we haven't talked about with Rod, and it's that Rod is incapable of lying.
Oh, right.
And that's, I think, a very important thing as we approach the nearing the end of the story-ish, is that he's incapable of lying. He had an issue where he lied to his mom at an early age, and she punished him. And ever since then, he has been, almost Pavlovianly reluctant to lie because he thinks about the extremely dry cookie that he stole.
And he cannot lie.
He cannot lie. So that's a thing. And now he's got aliens in his house that live with him, and he has to find ways to not lie, but bend the truth a little bit, right? Or to use the truth in creative ways, which is something that Madame Pong is sort of teaching him throughout this book.
Yeah, Madame Pong as a diplomat basically teaches him about white lies.
White lies, yep.
It's weird that she's not the leader. Honestly,
she really is the leader.
She's the leader. Yeah, Gracker thinks he's the leader, but she's running the show for sure.
I mean, there's a point when Gracker makes a promise to BKR which he cannot break because it's the captain's oath.
Yep.
And so Pong turns him off because she can break the rules a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's great. I love the dynamic of Cracker and Madame Pong. I think it's a great dynamic. So they go home. And he has I forget exactly what happens at this moment now, right? So we're transitioning from, I think we've discovered that I think Billy, they discover, is the alien, right?
Well, so because they go to Billy's house,
right?
So they go home, they go back and forth a lot. Probably my note on this as a script is that they bounce back and forth from his house to other locations and back to his house more times than they probably need to.
Yeah, definitely.
But they go they go to Billy's house and they find the turned off androids that are Billy's parents.
Yes.
So fucking cool.
Creepy drawing in the book too.
Yeah, very creepy drawing. Although I have some issues with some of his chapter breaks. Because when they open up the closet, Rod just says, "And I opened up the closet and then I screamed." And then the chapter ends. And then the next line of the next chapter is, "The lifeless faces of Billy's parents stared back at me." And I'm like, that's how you end the chapter.
Marly, you sweet child. If you had read a couple more Goosebumps books in your life, that is precisely how a Goosebumps book chapter ends.
Yeah, well, because half the time the next chapter is something that wasn't actually scary, but we needed to make you think it was.
Yeah, they don't even hide like a scary thing on the other side of it. They just leave you with the cliffhanger and they give you nothing. But I don't think he would have even given you the scary thing at the end ever.
I feel for like Bruce Coville, who I'm just gonna guess in my head that's not how it works, but they had the same editor. Like, and Bruce is like, well, I really think the dramatic pause should be after this point, and then like you can hear the editor take a big puff of a cigar on the other side of the phone. Like, this is how RL does it. Have you sold as many books as RL? Well, no, he has 300 books. I have 12. This is how RL does it, and then he has to like change it.
Mm-hmm. Precisely how it happened, Chad.
Yeah. I also like when Madame Pong is like, well, you would call these androids, but obviously the actual mechanism is much more advanced than that. And I'm like, android doesn't mean a specific technology in English.
I'm going to chalk it up to the translator being broken there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I love this scene. So they break into the house. They realize Billy is the alien. Rod realizes that he's being tortured by an intergalactic alien who also is rich and was born rich.
They make a big point of saying, well, you're right, because that's when the cruelty thing comes up.
Right.
Because Pong is like, oh no, he's rich. He was born rich. And Rod's like, but you said he was a criminal. And they're like, yeah, there's worse crimes than stealing. And Rod's like, I'm an American, so I'm not sure about that. But I like that Rod just assumed he was stealing things since they didn't tell him what he was doing.
Are we already at this point? I just want to where we already did the jetpack scene. Did it already happen?
So no, that hasn't happened yet. So this is the TV scene, which I thought was really cool, where they're trying to find his basically bag of holding is what they're looking for. And energy is the currency in the universe, which is a cool concept.
Yeah. Gracker's like, who cares about gold? You can't do anything with it.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. It's a great little moment, and they find that his bag of holding-ish type thing, his infinite space where he stores his stuff, is behind the TV. They cut out the window. He sticks his head through the portal that leads to another dimension, essentially. Talks about how his blood is flowing between two dimensions currently, which was a cool concept in that moment.
Yeah.
And then that's when Billy comes home, jams them all into the space, and traps them briefly. And there's a great moment of like, he's going to release the airlock, sending them into the garbage dimension where there's no air. Really cool scare. They do escape. They get into the ship. And then this is where Rod is shrunk down. And this, I think, is the cool. So I'm totally with you, Marly. I think they go back and forth between normal locations too much. But then they go here, and we get the tour of the ship, which is a really fun sci-fi sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, Rod shrunk down on the ship. And this gives you a little sense of what all the other books are like, because in every other book, they're on the ship in an alien place and Rod's the same size as them.
Okay.
Cool. I'm assuming they're back to normal. Yeah, they're normal size for the rest of the books. They're not like, well, the shrinking is the core mechanic of this series.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely remember that the ship can shrink, and I'm sure it comes up. But yeah, at any rate, Rod's doing whatever they're doing for the rest of the books.
Right.
I really liked how this part of the ship, like, they kind of do this. It reminded me of Mass Effect a little bit, right? Where you go around and, like, everyone's got their own different sections.
Yeah.
Like, this is where Jack hangs out. She likes to stay by the engines where it's all loud.
I was just saying, Rod has to do his little companion scenes with everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. It's nice. It's a nice. This is where we first meet Plink too, who I love, and so we get to have Plink, which is the best.
Merchandisable Plink. I just like everyone's room, and like you already mentioned, like how you can hear, but like Gracker has the room that he shares with
Snout. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But everyone kind of has like interior. Everyone got to do like Animal Crossing on the inside of their rooms.
Yes.
Yeah. It seems like for the most part, everyone's rooms are made up to be kind of like their planet.
Right.
Which is even in like Star Trek, they're not doing that, right? Like in Star Trek, it's like, well, you kind of just, everyone in the Federation's kind of, even it's non-military, it's still kind of militarized.
Right.
Like everyone's still got your quarters and ship rules. This just feels a lot more fantastical of like, in this one room, it's just kind of a swamp where bio bugs are grown for one of them to eat. Like it's a cool idea.
Yeah. Also with Phil the plant, because they do say that he's traveling to find his roots and you're not sure if it's a joke. But then Madame Pong says, because of Phil's vow, he views his room as open to anyone if he's not in it.
I love this. I love this idea of like exploring personal boundaries with the characters. Like they're like, here, we're willing to show you a bit about our life. And I love this idea of like this vow that this creature has taken. Like there's a lot of mystery for their backstories, which is established in this sequence, which could just be like a boring like physical attributes to remember these characters to differentiate them in your mind. But instead, we get like a little mystery building, a little world building. It's a wonderful sequence.
Yeah, it's really great. And yeah, you're right. Like Madame Pong is very like, she's like, well, me and Tar Gibbons are here, so we can invite you into our rooms. And Phil has a standing invite to everyone, but Gracker and Snout are not here, and so their room is private.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's a good movie. But I had not even thought about what you said about them being Spock and Kirk.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that, and I love that idea, and I love the not going into it because now we get to talk about it, and we don't know if that's true or not, right?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I wonder if the later books explain their bond more and ruin it by doing that.
Yeah.
It's great. I also love Plink. I love that it's also a great bit of like kids book business that the way Phil talks is by burping air out of pods on his vines.
Yeah.
Which means for the rest of the series you can be like, oh no, we're in trouble, Captain, burped Phil.
It's fantastic. They have some stuff like that. I believe there's also like a moment where Gracker goes nuts. He goes berserk and he's screaming booger, 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 which is just like just some fun kids
Is
stuff.
that supposed to be a translation thing, or
it
happens to be?
So I think earlier in the book, Gracker called something booger. He said like booger as a swear, and Rod is like, it made me question the like accuracy of their translation module.
Yeah. There's some good like kid jokes that are based on, as you said, like translation errors, things like that. Although a kid does say in this book, and we're coming up to the point where they say it, I hope you pooped your pants. And they just straight up say that, and I was like, that is a type of bravery that RL could only hope to have in his reign.
Yeah, because one of the 3-year-olds says it to the BKR who was trying to kill them 1 second ago.
Trying to kill them, and that is their rebuttal. It's fantastic. We're swiftly approaching that point of the story.
Yeah.
So like they escape from BKR. In the ship, and Rod is small, and they after the walk around and the companion scenes are done, an alert comes in that BKR, they know what BKR is going to do next. He's going to kidnap a member of Rod's family. So they head back to Rod's house, only to find that his mom is missing. And the next door neighbor, an older woman that his mom helps to take care of, is over watching the kids. And they sneak inside with the rockets, and this is where we get the rocket sequence.
I just wanted to. There was something in this rocket scene I just wanted to talk about where it's already been kind of dressed on with the cruelty thing. Feels like it's still going through here, right? Where they're like, why would they pick one of your family members? It seems just to hurt you,
right?
Like it's raw. It's not about like, oh, he needs food or he needs a hostage. It's just like, he knows this will emotionally hurt this kid.
Yeah.
And that would right into, they're going to use these little miniature versions of themselves. They parked in like a tree. They're going to have to go off in reconnaissance and put on jetpacks. And Snout does the Vulcan mind melt.
Oh,
or
yes.
maybe the Matrix download of I will put my fingers on your head and you will learn how to control the jetpack, which is fun. That's a fun little wish fulfillment fantasy for kids.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really interesting. Like Rod kind of instinctively reacts halfway through and he's shocked to find Snout like hurting on the ground because they had said like don't move specifically because the bond hurts Snout if you don't like separate correctly. But even Snout's like, I forgive you, you didn't do this intentionally. Just that idea of like cruelty being this metric on everything I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, and setting him as like a foil to BKR and everything, right? Like it's a great moment for establishing some of that stuff. I do think that again, I think that they go in a little bit of exposition-y stuff as he's like kind of figuring out how the mind meld worked on him, how the rocket belt works. But it's fine. It's totally fine. There's a lot going on here, right? Like
and some of the Snout stuff is because even in this book they reveal that Snout can slow down time.
Right.
And so, like is always the case in these kind of stories, they had to knock Snout out for a minute so there'd be some more stakes.
Yeah, Snout's a little bit too strong.
Yeah. A little OP. So they go out, they fly in, and they see the neighbor taking care of the kids. They notice that the kids are androids. And they are terrible facsimiles of the children.
Yeah. I don't think he explains what's wrong with them. I think this is another good case of asking the kid to imagine. He just says that like it would fool no one if their eyes worked. Like the old woman is only fooled because she can't see that well.
I was picturing like, do you guys ever see? I think this was the remake of Hill House, where like they're watching on the film footage of like a doctor down in the dungeon, and they kind of moves in this like he moves like someone who's like a street performer. This is a very deep cut.
Yeah.
But like just the unnatural walking that makes it so scary.
Right.
I was picturing kind of that movement.
Ooh, that's creepy. Ooh,
I think I like that. And then I don't remember the exact timing of this. I think we might have skipped this part. At some point, BKR throws them in a lunchbox.
Oh, that's coming up. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they distract the dog. They go out. They realize that they realize that the kids are the ones who were kidnapped. So they go out. I think they get a message. They find a message from BKR saying that he has them in Seldom Seen, which is is it Seldom Seen?
Yeah, the farm the dad had. Yeah,
Seldom Seen is an area of the farm that they live on that Rod's grandfather showed him. So he took BKR there at some point, trying to befriend him earlier on in the
And
year.
this is autobiographical. Coville grew up on his grandparents' dairy farm outside Syracuse, New York.
Cool, I love that. Oh, that's nice. What a nice detail. So he takes them out to Seldom Seen, and we have a really cool sequence here where the kids are being held in the air, the Thing 1 and Thing 2, over a flaming purple pit, and BKR skywrites with magic flame, a scary message to the ship, and then they have to fight them, and that's when they decide they're going to surrender. As we talked about earlier, Gracker makes a type of surrender that he is bound to, so that BKR will agree to it. But Madame Pong has a plan. The bioscan doesn't pick up all of the life forms on the ship, and Phil the Plant is going to stay behind and command the ship while they're off, and without BKR knowing.
And the way Madame Pong's like twisting of the truth works is BKR said, "I want swear to me that your whole crew will exit the ship." But then he also said, "I'm registering 6 life forms."
Right.
And they know that there's 7 of them.
Right.
Gracker has to follow the intent of the oath, which is all of them. But Madame Pong can be, he only knows about 6 of us.
She is a diplomat.
It's very like pirate bargaining or something, right?
Yes, yeah. It's cool. Madame Pong is cool because she breaks the rules. She lies. She's a liar, and it's cool. She's our liar.
Yeah.
So they pull their trickery, but they are still captured. I believe Rod is questioned by BKR and is incapable of lying. He tries like hell, but he can't do it. And they are captured. And this is after the kids are released, and they tell BKR that they hope he poops his pants or pooped his pants.
Yeah.
And then they're trapped in a lunchbox, and then there's a really scary sequence of him just torturing them in the lunchbox.
Yeah, he's just shaking it, right?
Yeah, just shaking it. And there's things flying all over the place, and up is down, is left is right.
Who hasn't ever wanted to have a bunch of tiny people in a lunchbox that you could just shake?
And cruelly shake them. Chad, if you had these powers, millions would weep.
Millions would weep, yeah.
I mean, it makes you realize that, like, in some ways, because BKR is someone with a perverted sense of, like, violence and cruelty, but coming from this society that has, like, this amazing, perfect empathy, like, I think they might even say this explicitly in one of the later books, but, like, BKR smushing a bug on Rod's head every day, for him, I think, was as much about killing the bug.
Yes.
Like,
wow.
He just loves hurting things and killing things, and I think he was just as psyched about smushing a bug.
He realizes the bugs are sentient and wants to also,
This guy's fucked up. I do hope he pooped his pants.
It shows some restraint that they don't hit him with some kind of ray that makes
with
him
a poop pants ray. Yeah, that's true. Maybe in the Netflix movie they pulled that out.
Yeah,
I hope they did.
Yeah, you find out that ray Gracker was pointing at Rod this whole time. That's what it would have done.
It's a brown ray.
Yeah. So they are tortured for a bit, and then after the torturing grows old, BKR takes them back to his house, and then this is the Chad Quant portion of the story where Madame Pong realizes. Madame Pong realizes that the only way they're going to do this is the final resort. They have to escape this thing. She decides to put Berserker module into Gracker. Gracker is pumped about Berserker module.
Yeah, and it's great because. And it's extra cool. It shows you that Gracker's personality is always there, no matter what module is in, because he currently has the like docile module in to like let him go along with this. But docile Gracker's like, yes, Berserker, excellent.
Yes, it's a great moment, and I just thought, Chad, that you love Berserkers, and he goes Berserker. He goes.
Oh yes, of course.
And it just was a moment where like she inserts it and tells him wall bad, and Berserker Gracker destroys the wall as best he can. Gracker does knock the lunchbox off of the table, releasing them from it, and then this is when the fracas ensues, and Rod sees the ship. I think also within the lunchbox, they discover the thing they were looking for, the piece that they were looking for to fix their ship.
Yeah, because it's one of the thing's lunchboxes. So it turns out one of the 3-year-olds had the thing the piece the whole time.
Yeah, and thought it was a toy, which is a fun little. It was right there the whole time.
Yeah, I'm not even mad at a 3-year-old for picking that up. And taking it.
They did tell the evil villain to poop its pants, so I think that they're
it's all valid.
It's a wash. Yeah. So Rod is making a beeline to try and get this thing reinserted into the ship, which Phil is still in, so that he can use the ray to bring them back up to a normal size. And then we have a dual fight of Gracker attacking BKR. I believe Tar Gibbons also attacks BKR while this is happening. And there's a great moment where Rod is trying to climb the ship, and he can't use his rocket because he doesn't want to draw the attention of BKR. And he has to climb, and he falls a couple of times because as has been told, he's very clumsy. And there's a great moment where he thinks about his dad and his dad taking him mountain climbing and how he wasn't capable of doing it. He was too scared, but he did watch his dad and did learn from his father how to climb. And he uses those things to climb onto the top, which ultimately doesn't matter because BKR does notice him at the top and has a ray gun pointed at him, and then Madame Pong, and there's a showdown, and Rod is on top of the ship with the device, but he can't put it in because there's a gun pointed at him, a ray gun pointed at him by BKR, who tells him that to give up, to surrender, and if he surrenders, he will tell him about his father. And then we have a little bit of yelling back and forth, people saying not to trust him. And Rod just ultimately decides, like, he could tell me about his dad, but he's probably lying. He's cruel, most likely.
But he does. I've got this part now because where the way it does get pretty intense because BKR says, he's waiting for you, Rod, said BKR. Waiting for you out there. I can take you to him. I can show you things, Rod. I can show you the stars. I can take you where you belong. And then Rod thinks it was ridiculous. BKR couldn't possibly know where my father was. It was as impossible as what? As aliens flying through my window? As me being 2 inches tall? I shivered. Was anything really impossible?
Deep. Shit's deep.
It's also very Star-Lord there, right? Like, you have a secret destiny. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I love. So you find out that Billy Becker was wearing a mask the whole time. BKR has blue skin and spiky hair.
Oh, that's right.
And as Rod's looking down at him, because BKR is really defeated now, and he's just saying like, "Switch sides, Rod." Right. And Rod thinks BKR was still on his knees. He didn't look like the cruelest being in the galaxy now, just a weird guy with blue skin and a spiky head. But I remembered the words of Madame Pong. Millions have wept.
They bring it back. They bring back the millions have wept. I love that. I love they pull that line back. It's such a good moment. It's a great moment. He logics it out, realizes that he's probably being lied to. And even if he wasn't being lied to, it's not worth him finding out about his dad to sacrifice everybody else. So he goes for it. They put the device in. I believe he gets jump kicked by Tar Gibbons.
Yeah, I think at the same time, Tar. There's a great illustration of tiny little Tar Gibbons just doing. It's like Tar Gibbons, master of karate, does a flying kick into BKR's ankle.
Yeah,
knocks him down.
They jack him up,
and then I think it's once they have the ship at full size, they just can win. They blow up his house. They expand the ship to full size inside BKR's house.
Oh, it's wonderful. And it KOs them. We do then Rod is tasked with finding the survivors amongst the rubble. A dark task for a child, but he's given the task, and he finds it's in a very sad moment, finds the body of Gracker and Plink in the lunchbox. They've been recaptured during the fight, and he sees the arm of Gracker. Very, very sad. He brings Snout over. Snout carries them up to the ship, and then Rod grabs BKR and takes him to the ship as well. They go to the infirmary section, the medical ward or medical bay, and everyone's being healed. They strap down BKR so that he can be healed because they are not cruel. And but taken away to be put in his prison or taken to the what was it called again? The Huskow. The Huskow.
Yeah, they take him to the Huskow. And they talk about how important it is for them to try to save Gracker.
Right.
And when they put him on the healing bed, Gracker like barely wakes up. Oh, his eyes flutter open. It says, and he says, "Bad wall."
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Snout smiles and bursts into tears. He's going to be all right. Aww. He whispers.
And they don't say anything about Plink until the fucking end of the book. They left me in the lurch. They held Plink over my head and made me read through to the end to make sure Plink was okay. Plink is fine.
Plink is fine. Plink is I guess Plink is the Groot of this.
Yeah. Definitely the pet, right? Of this whole thing.
But he also he's Plink's symbiotic purpose is to run and get tools for Phil. So he's smart. He knows which wrench Phil needs.
Mm-hmm. I love that little scene about their the description of how they work together. It was a beautiful little moment.
And then there is a whole section where Rod has to explain to the police why Billy Becker's house exploded.
That was great. The shakedown by the police. I love that they're doing that FBI shit where they know information that they are acting like they don't know, and they're asking all these questions about it, and they're like, "Oh, you're also working on a volcano, right, for school?" And Billy's like, or Rod is like, yeah. How'd you know that? And they're like, "Then you know about explosives." And like,
I love that they're accusing him of blowing up the house with his volcano technology.
Yeah,
this was the 90s, and every kid had the anarchist cookbook, and either you could combine orange juice and gasoline to make a bomb.
But then, and also Arnie the bully's father is threatening to sue Rod's mom because Rod broke his son's hand.
Right. In the obvious, he punched the wall because he's an idiot.
Yeah, then the way the aliens get Rod out of this is they grab Billy Becker's fake dad android.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They pilot the android, but the way they do it is the android goes to Rod's school, walks into class, and says, basically, "My son Billy was super fucked up. You all know it. Hey, Arnie, you were his friend? That's messed up. That's messed up. You need serious help, like Billy's gonna get when we send him away to reform school. Anyway, Rod Allbright did not blow up my house. Goodbye."
It's an incredible moment. It's just like, all right, we're going to clear all this up real quick. And they do it in like 3 pages. They sum it all up. They get it taken care of. And it's great. They lead off the chapter with the best day of my life, but with one really bad moment. And that really bad moment, saying goodbye to the alien friends that he made along the way.
Yeah.
And it's a sweet little moment.
And this is the big reveal where you find out that one of the things Cracker didn't want Rod to know is that these aliens and basically every sentient species in the known universe are about as high as half a 6th grader.
Right. He was afraid of the power dynamics would shift if they learned about how tall they were.
The reason BKR was pretending to be a very short child is because that's how tall the adult aliens are.
Right.
I think he keeps saying they come up to his like belly button, right? They're little.
Yeah, like just above their belly button. And he's like, yeah, they're basically talking about how... Which is interesting that he gets shrunk down and they don't do that. I mean, like, I guess they would have the ability to maybe just blow themselves up.
Yeah, so the idea is, this comes up in later books, which is that if they're growing or shrinking someone, they can make them whatever height they want, but there's always a your real height setting.
Okay.
So like there's a in Dimension X, Dimension X is the next book, and that place is ruled by actual giants who are giant by human standards. And when they defeat that guy and take him prisoner, they do it by shrinking him down. And so then in the next book, they're like taking him to one of the regular Galactic Patrol cities so they can like try this giant. But they've used their shrink ray to make the giant the same height as everybody else. So Rod actually is the giant because he's his normal height, which is twice as tall as everyone else.
Right. I love it.
Okay, yeah, wow. That's like when you ever see one of those like toys where it's like not a life-size Darth Vader, but it's like 2 foot tall Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. You're like, why do I have this tiny little Chucky around in the house?
So yeah, it's they do a lot of weird stuff with height. Yeah, like that's what they do. In the next book, they don't shrink; they go to a universe where everyone's big.
Right. Okay.
Dude, I want to read these other books.
Yeah, this book was great. I gotta say, I hadn't read a Coville book since probably when I read this or when I read Goblins in the Castle, which I remember loving. But for some reason, I never had the moment you had, Marly, where I was like, I should revisit those. And I'm so glad that we did. Thank you again for bringing this book onto the show.
Yeah, thank you, Marly.
Thanks for giving me a reason to read them again as an adult. I remembered almost everything in the book, but I especially remembered every illustration. As soon as I would turn the page, I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that.
The illustrations are great.
Yeah, they like I saw those and I couldn't remember if I read this book, and as soon as I saw the first illustration, I remembered that I had.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of is because Rod, the bully calls Rod pudgy, and Rod does say the doctors say he needs to lose 10 pounds, but the illustrations are very kind as to what you would look like if you only needed to lose 10 pounds. He looks fine.
Right. He looks like, like he's a child that of probably average weight, I would assume.
Yeah. They're not trying to make him like chubby and funny looking at all.
Right.
I very much appreciated that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to revisit these, or either like My Teacher's an Alien, or maybe Goblins in the Castle. Like Marly, we need to have you back for those.
Yeah, let me know. I'm happy to talk Coville books anytime.
Sick.
Also, we should make sure people know. I think you might have mentioned already during this record, but Marly, you have also stepped into the world of podcasting.
I've been doing a podcast called Hero Rewatch, where me and my brother do it. Me and Austin Halpern-Graser. But our gimmick is, so we're watching Marvel Studios movies like a million podcasts, but our thing is that I'm 12 years older than Austin. So he's the initial idea for it was that when we started this, Iron Man was 12 years old. So we were like, oh, you're the age I was when Iron Man came out. We thought it would be cool to go back now that he's that age and I'm, 12 years older than that. And like revisit the movies. But really what the point of the podcast is, me and my brother are, very close and very good friends, and we love comics and superhero movies. But I've lived on he lives in the East Coast. I've lived on a separate coast from him since he was 10.
Oh, wow. So you didn't experience any of these together pretty much.
So we didn't watch them together the first time. And so much of our relationship is talking about these movies and these characters on the phone that basically we were like, oh, we could record those conversations.
That's great. I love it. I also, you had a great interaction that I remember you talking about on Twitter, where it was, I think it was a clip you posted, it was breaking your brother's mind. You were talking about DC and the amount of different crises crises
that
have happened.
Oh, God,
Because we were a Marvel household, and then I've become a DC expert because I work at Warner Brothers Animation.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was the moment when, because like he was like, "Oh yeah, I've read Infinite Crisis," and I was like, "No, Austin, you've read." I know he's like, "I've read Crisis on Infinite Earths," and it was like, "No, you've read Infinite Crisis," and he was like, "Wait, which was that?" He's like, "Well, it's not Final Crisis," and then he was like, "Stop talking."
I thought of you this week. I think I saw something in my local comic shop trade for like Dark Crisis coming out. I was like, yeah, gonna be another one.
Yeah, well, the Marvel version is they have, I think, 4 different crossovers called Secret Wars, and
Dude, I didn't know that until you pointed out. I thought there was 2.
Yeah,
I didn't realize there was 4 of them. That's crazy.
I think it's 4, and only some of them are related to each other.
God damn it. And again, make sure if you want to check out the podcast, what would be the best way to find that?
Well, if you search Hero Rewatch on any of the podcast platforms that I've heard of, it'll be there. And then we're on Twitter at Hero Rewatch Podcast, probably. Ugh, I should know that.
We do this all the time on Goosebuds. What's our email?
Oh, no, it's just at Hero Rewatch.
Got it.
So at Hero Rewatch on Twitter is a good place to find us also.
Beautiful.
We just recorded the one for Guardians Volume 2. We're posting wise, we're up to Doctor Strange.
Awesome. I cry every time at Guardians 2, man. That one always gets me.
It's good. Bad dads, good dads. Metaphorical dads
and all the dads in between.
It's fun. Watching them, people should listen to the podcast, but watching them all back to back has been interesting because it's not something I would ever normally do. And it makes you see more you can see that Marvel really does plan these movies in phases because the phases tend to have things in common with each other that then they don't keep doing.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can kind of see that like Kevin Feige gets an idea in his head and then that idea is in 4 movies and then he moves on to his next idea.
Right. Oh, cool. That's fun. Well, I hope people check it out. And I just want to say thanks again for bringing this book and for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And then, also, doesn't do me any specific good, but if people want to watch Aquaman King of Atlantis on HBO Max, that's the cartoon I wrote most recently.
Do it.
It's a super fucking charming cartoon. It's coming out. I see you guys putting it on on DVD or Blu-ray too. I feel like I'm doing an ad read for you.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're better at it than me. I need you. Yes, it's coming out on DVD April something.
I love the style of that, akin to Thundercats Roar, right?
Yes. It's Victor Courtwright, the creator of Thundercats Roar, co-created Aquaman with me, and it will be coming out on DVD sometime. But you'll be at the grocery store and you'll see it and you'll go, "That's
Pick it up."
They still make these things, and they'll say, "Yeah, I guess so." Well, if you bought it from Walmart right now, it would get to you on June 28th.
Okay.
So
here
we go. April 26th, DVD and digital.
Oh, that's this month.
Yeah,
okay.
It's soon.
Yeah.
This is a good time to do it. Aquaman, King of Atlantis, swims to DVD and digital, April 26th. says MediaPlayNews.com.
I thought you were just cutting a promo for us right there.
I am. Put it in there. It's great. We've got all kinds of cool things. Our Thomas Lennon plays Volko. It's great.
That's fantastic.
That's great. That's fantastic. Speaking of plugs, also if you want to support this show and get access to bonus episodes, we do every month Camp Goosebuds, where we just talk about everything but Goosebumps books. You can go to patreon.com/goosebuds. Follow us on Twitter at goosebudspod. Gmail is goosebuds@gmail.com. Paul, am I forgetting anything?
I don't know.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Kevin, we miss you. Thank you for listening to this audio, Kevin, and editing it. We miss you.
Thank you for sorting it out, Kevin.
Yeah. All right. Well, Marly, thank you again. And until next time, we'll see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This episode of Goosebuds is brought to you by our wonderful Patreon supporters. They live forever in the Book of Names.
The Book of Names.
Starting with Stefan Jive Turkey Kuwabara,
Hollis Hornbeak,
Cameron Murphy Audio,
Michael McDowell,
Hey, Josh Robb.
Mickey C,
Nathan Dolezal.
Kelly C,
Mike Lanteri.
Buddy Morrill,
Alacade.
Mel Dipson,
Zane Keith.
Afsheen,
Danky McStanky.
Low Belly Hate Me,
Dango Twists.
Brian Wells.
Zenticles drives the Zamboni machine at the Ice Church on weekends.
Yes.
Zenticles. Yeah, I guess I was going to get that past this, but I allow it. Thank you for keeping the Ice Church smooth.
Nice. Stealth Bates,
Patrick Reynolds.
Robert Moon,
Jason Crooker.
Clay Castle,
Miguel Pardo.
John Keaty,
Calf.
Third Sergio,
Chad will make more Paranoia Shop the third. Will I, though? Question mark.
Sniggy,
Ishak Arifin.
Gregory D. Warren,
Alan Saylor.
Cody Redfield,
Bradford Coulter.
Aiden Alexander Dice,
Reinfected.
Jar Jar Slinks,
Justin Wagman.
Chosen One,
Cardboard Walk.
Levi Fan,
Up and Champ.
Jonas Eggman,
Alicia Grafe.
Maloyster,
Carl.
Something I Love, Broccoli. Hey, pause for a second, I gotta get Fall Off.
Every time I think my brain's broken. The John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation.
Elusive Koala,
Yanni Markovina.
Joe,
Brooke X.
Jesus Christo, or aka Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think that's a canonically approved version of the pronunciation of it.
Yeah.
Christian Van Skeever.
Drew Applegate,
Jeremy Lowe.
Brian Hopgood,
Zach Connor.
Trent Davis,
Patreon_donator, yo.
Joe quotes Spooky Digital Ghost Tierney,
Tom Whittam.
Jonas Blatterman,
Andrew Jadsack is wondering if Zane Keith can consistently pull off their namesake spinning pile driver move. If so, impressive.
pretty impressive. Lord Cornwallis,
Carson Birkenbean.
Murphy P,
Paul Grasso.
Tevin Ticklebean is your new best friend,
Joe, regular name. Scott.
Sean Minogue.
Rushy Glenn.
Ooh, that feels like a new one. Have we had a Rushy Glenn before?
That's an adapted name.
Rushy Glenn, love it for you. Wiggle It,
John Pigeon Hat Barber.
Chip Handsome,
Matt McClellan.
Vincent Modica. My voice cracked.
Oh, I like it.
I didn't plan for that.
You just became a real boy.
It only took 32 years.
Luke Canoodles.
Hugh Bolin,
Zambambino.
Alex Moon, the robotic dog,
Sarah Kemp.
Tanya Turtle,
Brett.
Adam, you goofed,
Juan Jalapeno.
Nathan Remick,
Need more kimchi.
Keith Halcrow,
Timothy Misodolakis.
Clay McCarty,
Reed Stubendick.
Matthew Stevens,
Parker Lee.
Joey Evans.
Ham_boat.
My name is Kevin. Sometimes I edit Kevin Cole's audio out of the episode and put on a mask of his face and respond to Chad and Paul. Wow, that was lucky and scary. I love it.
Carewise Gamgee.
Raymond Hernandez.
Flemily has BDE, Big Dwarf Energy.
Hell yeah. The Crowfens.
Matthew Sutton.
Uncle Cool Brother.
Cameron Hansen.
Lee Wood.
Jeffrey Owen Cahy.
Kelsey Kinnaman.
Generally depressing.
Dom Sexy Ghost, aka Captain Sick.
Russell Castberg.
Xavier Jimenez.
Brendan Arifin.
Liam Neeson's Doe.
Liam Neeson's Doe.
Liam Neeson's Doe.
Been wanting to watch Darkman recently. Should check that out.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
All right.
Chris Putricus.
Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
Ben Bohan.
Streak.
Meet Virginia.
Dungeon Kappa.
Boss Garrettson.
Hey, Eric. It's gonna be all right. You're doing a great job.
Great job, Eric. Who? MC Hamster.
Zach Weir.
Limp Duck.
Alan G. Jussum.
Ryan Stewart.
Tobias Clark.
Michael Kupka.
Adam Muth.
Jonas Enevoldsen.
Calamity Carl.
Andre Villanueva.
Germ Juice.
Nick Johnson.
Stephen Day.
Ryan Carroll.
Jeremy Bowser.
Estamena, Lord of Paul's Pants.
Megan McCormick Mason.
The Davy Boy.
Kenny M.
Ninja Breadman.
Dr. Diarrhea.
Got little old moi, pretty French.
Nailed it. That was good.
Nice.
Peanutberg level 69. One of these days, Peanutberg, you're going to get max level. One of these days.
Yeah, that cap is brutal. Kieran McNamara.
Diet Soda.
Skelefella.
Dr. Chocula, close friend of Dr. Diarrhea.
Like they've worked together.
Yeah, Dr. Chocula visits you first, and then you get visited by Dr. Diarrhea.
Yeah, same hospital. Jimmy Soul.
Shacky Ledoux.
Coleman Laguza.
Lamb!
Clone Juice.
A pair of Scots.
Levi Kidder.
David Gray.
Bryce Diary.
Matthew Brittato.
Carb Son.
I am Cornholio. I need TP for my bunghole.
SSJ Trogdor.
Some of Chad's bird friends.
Nicholas Maloney.
Midwest Indigo 13.
Mike Spaghetti Jones.
Oh, now I'm hungry. Thomas Jansis.
Aaron Lord.
Eric Horwitz.
Tiffany Lee.
Redemption.
Dr. Egg Drop Soupman.
I prefer Dr. Robotnik Drop Soup.
A lot of doctors. We've got a very highly
A lot of
educated
doctors.
group.
What a collegiate podcast. Burgers Tildeful World. Listen, guys, I just think they look nice and make me feel like a manic pixie dream girl. I agree.
Lucretia McEvil.
Elm Realm.
Mutant Astronaut.
Henry Torbert.
Chris.
Adam Knapp.
David Lynch. XXX. Brendan Fraser. 666.
Oh, Logan Derby.
Brad Schmelzer.
Soggy Newspapers.
Wagmar Wigmere.
Dakota Kemp.
John W.
Chick.
Milk Punk. Hyphenated. Not hyphenated. Milk Punk not hyphenated.
I was going to say, you are taking liberties there, sir.
It's very small font on a very big monitor.
Skullatoran.
Mr. Misfire.
Someday it'll be a Dr. Mr. Misfire.
We'll all be doctors.
Mandy Nasty.
Llama Lad.
Kiwi of Lerv.
Serial Killer X.
976 Evil.
Philip Reynolds.
Gakenti.
Detroit Red.
Is Gakenti what that thing that they now say in the Star Wars overdub when Greedo gets killed? He goes Gakenti.
Oh man, what McClunky is that? That's
McClunky. I just hear Gakenti. In my head, that's what he says now. Nathan Gurney.
Ryan R. Davis.
McClunky. Scott Schwabel.
Kit Bush.
Why did he say it? Benjamin Luther.
That's what you say when you get shot is McClunky. Edgar's Crassus.
Put that on my tombstone. Pizza Bagel Rocco.
Died of McClunky. Dennis Wright.
No, just McClunky in quotations. Josh Howell.
Jacob Rogers.
Mr. Unimportant has good self-esteem. It's just a cool username that's never taken by someone else.
Well, glad to hear that, Mr. Important. That's nice. You'll be a doctor one day. You'll be Dr. Unimportant. Kumo Jackoff.
Ali Safe.
Liam Rogers.
Evan Bowen.
Girthworm Jim.
Ooh. Cameron Ganseveld.
Zach Bentley.
Vosivi.
Matt Scepter.
Greg Gervasi, a.k.a. Vita Zen.
Dakota Kipper. Another crack. Hold on, let me try that.
Big man.
Dakota Kipper.
Dom's Dirted Down Low Donger.
Anthony Rodriguez.
B.
Taraku.
Greg Musto.
Anne Marie.
Carlsville, except the pig girl sold all of the lemonade intentionally.
Wow.
Wow. She reduced her supply. Big brain.
Odin's Eyehole.
Gonna have to click on this to see if this link works.
Does it work?
Does not go anywhere. All right. Welcome, new Patreon, www.givekevinmonkeys.com, a link that does not currently work.
You know what link does work? GiveKevinMoney.com. Try it out. It's fun. But if you want to give me monkeys, I think that's too big of a responsibility, and I'm not really in the right temperate zone. But
yo,
I appreciate it. I appreciate
you could handle like a gibbon.
I don't know if I'm emotionally prepared to handle gibbon. This is a big step. And you know what else is a big step is Spencer Y joining us. Thanks for joining the Book of Names, Spencer.
Welcome, Spencer. Also, welcome to the Book of Names. Hi, first time, long time.
Hi. Welcome, Allie Rose.
Welcome, Sprinkle Buns.
And welcome, Gelato Coon.
That is the Book of Names. Thank you all for your love and support.
Thanks for giving us money or monkeys or however you got here. Thanks for chanting into a dark cave. That means a lot that you did that.
We love you all. Goodbye.
Is that the plot of Darkman?